Hey, what's up guys? My name is Carlos and this is my 1999 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. What got me into cars was when I was younger. I remember I had bought an Xbox and my mom had got me the game Juice. So ever since then I started playing those racing games, and that's what got me into it, you know, like just modifying the car in the game. I fell in love with doing that, and when I got older I was like, you know what, when I get bigger I want to get my own car and do this in real life. And then the reason why I ended up picking up, say, the GSX or the Eclipse was one time when my mom was taking me to school, when this car had barely came out. I was in elementary school, and I remember we were driving to school in the morning and I seen the car and I was like, damn, the car would look really good modified. And I was thinking, you know, we could put some wheels on it, and just the body alone looked really good, you know, like for a race car, I guess you could say. This is a car that I want to get when I get older and modify. That's what got me into the Eclipse. So then my first car that I ever purchased was a Honda Prelude. I think I was still in high school at the time, so I didn't really have money to buy an expensive car. And I remember I had bought my first car for 600 bucks. I got it from a police impound. I got that car, I drove it for like about a year, and then I had an opportunity to buy what was supposed to be a turbo Eclipse that fell into the impound, but it didn't have a motor, it just had the transmission. They had the car at the police impound, and the guy told me we're gonna end up selling it as well. So what I ended up doing is I sold my Honda Prelude. I think it was for like 1,200 or 1,000 bucks, and I went and I picked up the Eclipse that was supposed to be a turbo Eclipse with no motor for 600 bucks. I took it to my buddy's shop, and we ended up finding out that it was a 428, a non-turbo Eclipse. And I had to buy the clutch for it, a flywheel. It was crazy, right? We had the car at his shop. Next to that shop, there was a car wash. The guy, the original owner of that Eclipse, was washing his car and he seen it. It was a distinct Eclipse. It had a body kit and everything. So when he seen the car, he's like, hey, who's the owner of that car? One of my buddies that brought it in, he's like, you know, that was my car originally. So then after that, we ended up finding out what happened to his car is that he was getting a whole motor built for it, and he had it in the alley, and the cops came, and since they seen the car just abandoned there for a while, they ended up towing the vehicle. He didn't know where it got towed. It ended up at the police impound yard. And that's when I got it, and he actually told us everything he did to that car. I guess he was getting it ready for a show. So the reason why I bought it is because the car looks super, super clean. I drove the car for like about a year, and I noticed that everybody was turboing those 428s. So I was like, you know what, I want to turbo my 428 as well. So I actually ended up parking the car, took the motor out, and I ended up rebuilding the whole motor. Put internals, pistons, I did the head, I did everything to get it ready for a turbo setup. After that, what happened is I parked the car, we ended up rebuilding the motor, I ordered all the parts and everything, and the car's been sitting for about 10 plus years. And the reason why that happened was because I actually came across this one, which is a 99 GSX. I was actually scrolling through Facebook, and a guy had posted this car up for sale. He had posted it was a GSX, and GSXs are really, really rare to find. Obviously, after when I got into the Eclipses, I knew the differences between RS, GS, GST, and GSX. And obviously, once I got into that, I wanted a GSX, you know? It was the ultimate Eclipse. And I actually contacted the guy and asked him, is that a real GSX? And he's like, yeah, it's a real GSX. So I was like, when can I go and check it out? So we actually set up an appointment, I believe the following day, for me to go look at the car. And he had actually posted it, I believe, for like $3,000 or $3,500. I ended up getting the money. I showed up to his house. The first thing I did was look at the rear end just to make sure it was a GSX. When I got under the car and I seen it was a GSX, I didn't even think about it. I was like, I want it, you know, I need it. So I offered the guy $2,500, and the funny story of that was that he actually needed the $2,500 because he wanted to get an Integra. I offered him the $25,000, and he told me to wait because the car he wanted was an Integra, and some guy had offered him an Integra for this. So you know what? I was like, this is a Honda kid. I need to get this car before he messes up and trades it for an Integra. I told the guy, you know what? How much does the guy want for the car? He's like, he wants $2,500. I was like, I'll give you the $2,500. I'm gonna take the car, and when he shows up, you buy the Integra off of him. So he was kind of iffy about it. I kept on insisting until I took the money, gave him the money. I test drove the car before that. It was making a noise, and the water pump was leaking. They tried fixing it, but you know, they were really young. This was actually his first car that he learned how to drive in. I ended up taking the car. I was like, you know what? I'll look at the problems it has later at the house and I'll get it fixed. It doesn't matter. This is a unicorn, I need it. I gave him the cash and we just took off because I didn't want him to regret it. That's how I ended up getting this car off of Craigslist for 2,500 bucks. I had to replace the water pump. I did the timing kit. We took it to my buddy's shop. We ended up lifting it up and we found out that the exhaust was sitting in the transfer case. So every time it would spin and you would do a pull because the motor mounts were broken, the engine would move, shifting the exhaust, making it hit the transfer case. We replaced the motor mounts, we got the exhaust fixed, and I got the car running. That's the reason why the other car has been sitting for so long, because my money and my priority went onto this car. It's a unicorn, it's rare to find, and I invested most of my money into this because this is what I really wanted. Once I started getting into DSM scene, everybody would bash on the 420As and preferred the Ford G63, obviously, because it was already turboed. All you needed was a turbo, injectors, fuel pump, and tuning, and you were easily making 500. Compared to the 420A, the 420A would not handle that much power stock. You had to get internals, pistons, and on top of that, you never really had a platform to do a full tune. You always had to do a piggyback. So the engine is strong. It could make the power if you build it. It just doesn't have the support that the Ford G63 does. I'm gonna give that car to my wife, and she loves Eclipses as well, so now that's a project that I'm working on for her since I'm already done with my project. So when I picked up the car originally, it was on Evo 8 Inky rims, and it was on cut springs with stock suspension. So the car was super bouncy. It was like a horrible ride. I remember one day, me and my wife were actually driving in the freeway, and another Eclipse pulled up to us. We ended up racing. And then I don't know if it was a couple days or a couple weeks later, he actually messaged me on Facebook, and he had told me, hey, weren't you in this freeway this night? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I raced you. And I ended up finding out that it was actually Miguel. And that's how me and him met. We actually raced that night. At the time, he had his 428, his was stock. You know, we became good friends. You know, we started talking, and then he would call me and I would go and help him work on his car whenever he needed help. My first thing was I needed to get coilovers to get rid of that bounciness, because it was embarrassing when I would drive. Everybody would see how bouncy it was, and they would always tell me like, damn, you gotta fix that suspension. So I got some Megan Racing, put them on the car. That fixed the bouncing issue. After that, I ended up getting the trunk and the carbon fiber wing, because I always liked the wing look on this car, because my trunk was actually rusted out and it had extra holes where the wings were at, so when it would rain, the water would go through. And then it also had a rear carbon fiber lip, which I don't have anymore. I actually took it off, but I have it at the house. I actually ended up getting the hood because I didn't like how it kind of offset the trunk, just to complete the panda look, I guess you could say. I did order the top roof, but the only reason why I never put it on was because you have to actually use like a 3M body adhesive, and like I said, this car is really rare, so I did not want to mess with anything on the roof or the actual body itself. I had actually contacted Miguel because he's always had RPF ones. I had told him that I was looking for some chromium black RPF ones, and he actually had a buddy that was actually selling them at that time. So me and him went down there and we ended up picking up the RPF ones that I have now. But we did get the quarter panel rolled and the front fenders rolled as well. This you can't really roll as much just because of the way the body comes out flat. So if you roll it out too much, you actually buckle it, and this middle part will bend in. You know, we had to try to go with a square setup just because it's all-wheel drive. I ended up getting, actually my wife got me these seats for my birthday. She told me, she said, you think you can help me with these boxes? So I actually helped to put the boxes in the truck, not knowing what it was. And then when we got home, she's like, all right, open your gift. That's what it is. And I opened them up, and it was actually the NRG seats that I have now. And then Carbonetics also offered a airbag delete tray. And if you know, a lot of these Eclipses, they start peeling from the airbag. I had already done everything I really wanted to. For some reason, the outside of the car is what needed most of the work. The paint was already peeling. Everything else looked good. It was just the paint that I felt was killing the whole car. So then I actually ended up taking the car to one of our buddies called Jesse, and he actually ended up doing the whole body work and paint for my car, which came out super clean. Car's been painted, I believe, for maybe like about 4 years. Super glossy, as you guys can see in the video. Sure, after I got everything done cosmetically with the car and how I got it to the point where it was at, I was satisfied with the car. You know, I was like, this is what I like. So after that, I was like, you know what, I feel like I'm done with the car. I didn't really want to do anything else. I just like that simple OEM plus look. After that, I let the car sit. I pretty much put it away. I was with my wife since we were 15. So she was with me through all this process, and she always supported me and had my back. You know, she always pushed me to do more. She's like, is that it? You know, and she always supported me and everything. So, you know, thanks for always having, you know, my support. So we were together for a really long time. We got married. After we got married, we decided we wanted to have kids. Now I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they love this car. It's crazy. Every time we go out, they always want to get in this car. They don't want to go in the other ones, just this one. Like I said, I was satisfied with the car. I had it sit in my house. I just have it under 2 car covers in case one rips. The other one's already there for backup. The car's just been sitting ever since. I remember when I got the car, it had 60,000 miles. Now I believe it has like 110 or something like that. So the car's been really, really good with me. After we had the kids, I just decided, you know what? Now I'm gonna be a family man. I gotta focus on my family. I gotta provide. Yeah, I guess you could say I just became a family man. Since I became a family man, I was like, you know what? I need a family car. What's the next best thing off of this Eclipse? A Evo, all-wheel drive, turbo, 4-cylinder, but with 4 doors instead of 2. That's my family car, so I still haven't let go of my young self. Pretty much thinking about keeping these cars until I get old, and you know, they're gonna be there forever. Okay, so for the exterior mods that I have is a carbon fiber wing, carbon fiber trunk, carbon fiber hood, fog light bezels, Inky RPF1 rims, the Brembos, lug nuts, mud flaps, hood pins. Yeah, and then for the interior mods, I ended up doing the seats. I did the shifter knob, the stereo, the quick release. I did the airbag delete. I did the headliner. I also put the gauges for the boost and the air fuel ratio. And now for the engine mod, it does have a 6-bolt swap. It does have a 16G turbo. It has Grady piping, Grady intercooler, RC, bigger injectors, DSM Link V3, aftermarket blowout valve, which the company is called NGR. Yeah, I got a catch can, strut bar, front and rear, powder coated valve cover, clear timing cover, a manual boost controller, full exhaust off of an Evo 3. All right, guys, well, I hope you guys enjoy the story of my 1999 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX. I told my girl I was gonna do it. She's like, smack it in the ass.